Welcome back to Man the Helm. Today I've got another awesome episode for you guys. But before we get into that, if you'd like to check me out on any social media platform, just check out Man the Helm and you will probably find me there. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, please consider subscribing, liking, comment, all that good stuff. If you guys are listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, leave a review for me. It goes such a long way for you guys just to interact with the post. Down below in the show notes, I'll have everything as far as social media, Patreon, all that good stuff. You guys can just go right there and check out anything you want to do that I'm up to. But as always, the easiest and free way to help me out is to share this podcast with a friend, like, comment, whatever you can do to interact with this piece of content, wherever you are consuming it, goes so far. Anyway, enough of this. Let's get to today's interview with Matt Sickels. Welcome back to Man the Helm podcast. Today I am joined by Matt Sickels. How's it going, sir?
It's going well. Thanks for having me.
Dude, thanks for coming on, man. I like to be as transparent as possible. You came up on my Instagram feed. I think Andy Wood shared some of your stuff. And ever since I saw that, I was like, dude, this guy is a monster player. And I had to reach out and get you on the show, man. So to be fair with that, though, I don't really know a whole lot about you besides just what I've seen on Instagram. You know, I've done a little bit of digging, but I almost try to like to stay uh, intentionally a little bit ignorant for these. That way, you know, I can kind of get like start to finish how, you know, you kind of got where you are today. So if you don't mind, maybe start at, you know, the beginning. If we want to get embryonic, we absolutely can. If not, you know, we can, you know, but how'd you start playing music? How'd you get into it? And we can just kind of go from there.
We'll take it from the top. I'll try to keep it short. But
No, you're
also just
good.
to say it's nice to meet you, Jake.
Absolutely, dude.
I'm sorry we're just going to talk about me today, but would have
No.
loved to sit down and just chat with you too. Yeah, so I come from a musical family. My dad plays drums. My grandmother played guitar and was my first teacher. My brother is one of the most ridiculous musicians, drummers on the planet, in my opinion. Um, and so I got into playing. I saw Michael J. Fox kick some amps over and
Oh yeah.
throw the 335 behind his head, and I was like, well, that I'm doing that.
Yep.
So I got into music, and when we were younger, we would go to our dad's gigs and like carry in fog machines or whatever, and then he would get us up and we'd sing Garth Brooks with his band and stuff, but we couldn't play anything. So from like 5 or 6 up to about 11 years old, I couldn't really play. I just loved music. We were
Sure.
always around the house. Yeah, always around it, always singing. If I was outside playing and my dad's band showed up for practice, I would ditch whatever it was I was doing to go to that practice, get my little plastic guitar, sit there and just jam along. So when I got to be about 11, then we found out that Grammy had a 1964 Fender Jaguar and
Oh
she could
wow.
play.
Yeah.
She just wasn't playing anymore. It'd been 20 years since she played, so I asked her, to play me something on it, and we would go over there every weekend, mostly when my dad was playing, and she just kind of like took a few weeks to get her Shakespeare back, because it'd
Oh
been a
yeah.
couple decades. But
Mm-hmm.
my dad grew up playing with her and stuff, so she came back out and she was playing, Santo and Johnny Sleepwalk, The Ventures, Rebel Rousers. She played a cool rendition of Frankenstein. She was wild, man.
Right.
And in her later Twilight years, she played a lot more like for the church and stuff like that,
Oh,
just
okay. Yeah.
more
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But yeah, so once she played in front of me, then I was like, oh, people can actually do this, And I saw the next door neighbor kid playing some Smells Like Teen Spirit, and I was like, oh, kids can play. Oh,
Right.
I'm gonna give this a shot. So yeah, we go over there every weekend and get babysat whenever my dad was playing at bars and things we couldn't go to. And yeah, so we go over to grandma's house and she'd show me a song every week. Um, like I said, my family's very musical, but I wasn't gifted in the sense like they were. They were all very naturally talented. So imagine
Right.
everybody's talented except for feels like you.
Oh, I get it.
So I've always had an ear for music. I think that's my talent is my ear and my my love for music. But I realized very quickly when she was teaching me songs. I mean, I had one finger going playing Wipeout and all downstrokes.
Right.
But I was just like, I'm not gonna quit on this. Every week she would give me a tune. I would come back and just play it the best I could. She didn't know like theory and things like that. She just knew a ton of tunes and she would just point, get my fingers going. So after a little while, then my brother had taken up drums and he just shot through the roof. He was just amazing, like a natural. So he started playing with my dad's band. So now we went from pretend, singing
Hmm.
Garth Brooks with dad's band to he's actually playing with him. So I was like, well, I got to do that. So I learned Wipeout, and on with one finger and all
Oh yeah.
downstrokes, and my dad played with me, and I got up and played with his band, but it was just he and I up there before their break or something, and he
Yeah.
just slays Wipeout, and I'm just trying to, play the
Keep up.
melody of it. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Wasn't a blues riff and B, but I was trying to keep up. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it kind of got started there, and then my brother and I started playing together in a band, and we won some talent shows and things like that. And it started to take off, but it took a lot of effort and a lot of practice on my end, and I felt like I was always trying to just keep up with my brother Fred. But
Yeah.
it did become like, oh, the Sickles Boys, and we would
Hmm.
play. We ended up doing car shows. We played like as kids, we played, like 25 gigs in a summer. It was
Oh
wild.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so something like that. That might be slightly exaggerated or off, but it's
Well,
pretty close. It was all
yeah.
summer. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so that's how kind of we got started. Then eventually my dad's band folded and he joined our band. So we're
Nice.
at this point 12, 13, 14 years old. Um, yeah, so then we just continued on and we were playing weddings and benefits and just, yeah, we were just all over the place in Northeast Ohio, this is. So Cleveland, you'll see me always
Oh
repping
yeah.
something from
Hmm.
Ohio. But yeah, that's kind of how we got started. And then, obviously when you get in school, there's jazz band. I couldn't read music because my grandmother just pointed. So I
Yeah.
got into jazz band and then the piano player would just like show me my parts. She could read music and show me what to play. Once I knew what to play, it was game over.
Right.
I would work on that till I got it. But anyways, long story short, went all through school and, eventually with all that hard work ended up being pretty prominent where I played guitar in everything. If it was the ensemble, the pit orchestra, just whatever it was. And then I decided I had a teacher, his name is Mr. Gallagher, and he told me he was like, "Hey, we're having this alumni come in who went to Berkeley. He's gonna check you out." I was like, "All right, cool." So some bass player that used to go to my high school, graduated from Berkeley, came back, and he sat in for like a rehearsal or something. And I guess he told him to the likes of some nature, he was like, "Hey, that kid needs to go do something.
Right.
Your guitar player needs to go do something." So he pulled me aside. And he's like, what are you planning to do after high school?" And I was like, "Well, probably get a job and then play on the weekends like my dad does." Like that's
Hmm.
that's all I knew was that's
Right.
as
Yeah.
far as that journey goes. He was like, "Man, you should really consider like going to school for music." And I didn't have great grades because I played so much guitar. I was
I
like,
know that
no,
feeling. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, no school's gonna take me or anything like that. But then got into like my junior and senior year. I started really considering it and going, you know what, maybe I can do this. Maybe I'm just a late bloomer, kind of
Hmm.
thing. So, but yeah, and my brother and I ended up going to school for music in Cleveland and in Atlanta, and my brother and I played in a couple bands. We had like a pop punk band that did really well. We had songs on the local radio, and we
Nice.
joined a kind of metal band for a while. So I've done a little bit of everything. When we were growing up, it was mostly playing oldies. Then we did punk, metal. You see the evolution. But then once I got into college, started getting really heavily into jazz.
Yeah.
So that's where you see kind of the fusion side and even the jazzier side of me if you're looking at my Instagram and stuff. But
Hmm.
um yeah, so am I going too long here?
No, dude, this is long form content, man. I'm here for the long stories.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that puts me graduate from Cleveland and then I go to the Atlanta Institute of Music. And that was basically a jump of like I was kind of lost in Ohio. There's not many opportunities to really take it on professionally, like
Sure.
full time.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to go to a bigger city. I couldn't afford LA. I was too afraid to go to like Nashville. I thought it might be too cutthroat for me to actually succeed. So I was like, Atlanta, went and visited, did the school, and I was like, I think I can do something here. So graduated from there. And there's like a placement program when you graduate where you can audition, you can do, Hershey Park, Disney, those kinds of things, cruise ships, whatever.
Yeah.
And somewhere in there, one of the people that was associated with that was like, hey, I know this guy in North Carolina, that's got a touring 80s band. They're looking for a new guitar player. And I was like, let me check it out. So we hop on a call and we agree that I'm going to do this audition. I'm going to come in and just do a gig. And if the gig goes well, I get the gig. If not, and it was at the time it was $250 a show, $250 a show, and they were playing four times a week, 4 to 5 times a week at most.
Nice.
So you're looking at $1,000. I'm like, oh wow, right out of school, heck yeah, man.
Right.
So I relocated, and that's how I ended up in Carolina, was taking that gig. And you had to sign a contract for, I think I did like a year or 2 years. I can't remember.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I came up here, and there's so many good musicians in this Winston-Salem, Greensboro, Triad area, that this was like home. We would go on the road to play all our shows, but come back to Carolina, and then I would go out every Wednesday or every Thursday and go see some local, musicians, became friends with a lot of them, formed our own wedding band and did the whole wedding circuit for several years, met my wife, and then it was, okay, this is home now. There's nowhere else to go, unless she wants to go there.
For sure.
Yeah, so that brings me up to date, and then I had to just, make my way from there. I did a lot of videos, Facebook groups and things like that got me entangled with Andy, Seth, and Kurt from Sonora now and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I arrived maybe on your radar too. So.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a funny thing. And it sounds like from that arc of a story that, and this is what I like to have these kind of long form conversations, because it shows a steady progression that you always have to constantly move that needle. And I'm not saying you have to be like the best or whatever, quote unquote, the best means at your instrument. You know what I mean? Like, but you're constantly pushing to go that next little bit, you know what I mean? Like, talking to your grandma, she got you up to speed with kind of familiarizing yourself with the instrument. Now you're in school, and now you can kind of apply that technical knowledge to more of reading knowledge, as far as, actually reading music, kind of getting into that world. And now you're just kind of adding up that repertoire, you know what I mean? Because I think with a lot of guitar players, I teach at a little mom and pop shop, and one of the students that I have, he's all about the chops, man. He's all about like getting fast and like, oh, dude, that's awesome, man. Like, we can get that. But what I would rather teach you is how to utilize these awesome licks in a musical sense. You know what I mean? That way, it's not just like, oh, look at the riff I can play or the lick I can play real quick. You know what I mean? You're not doing that typical Guitar Center play every intro to every song. Sit in an amplifier. You can actually sit in with musicians and kind of take that proverbial saying of, standing on the shoulders of the giants that you're, influenced by, and spread that across everything. You know what I mean? You don't have to sit and just like, oh, well, I'm only a metal guy, I only know how to play this stuff, or I'm only a jazz guy, I only do this stuff. You can take those aspects and apply them across the wide spectrum that is music. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It's a cool thing, because like I said, that's why I like having guests, and that's why I try to not be so ignorant to where like I don't even know your name, but I like to hear the story firsthand, first and foremost. You know what I mean? I think it's a little more genuine that way too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So when it comes to like that progression, I was listening to a podcast that you were on earlier today. I can't remember the name of it, so forgive me. But we were talking about the amount of time you were spending practicing your instrument, and how you've kind of had to dial that back as life changes. You know what I mean? So that's one of the things I think that I kind of wanted to get your perspective on it, because I have friends that are about my age, in my early mid 30s, that feel like they're too late. I'm in that Nashville area anyway, and they feel like they're too late because they're not young or hip enough, or whatever that really means. I've always been of the mindset that it doesn't matter really when you start doing things, as long as you're still pushing that needle.
Yeah, I had then you would have heard on that podcast, but for the listeners here, I had a good few years there where I was practicing several hours a day,
Right.
sometimes up to like 10 hours a day. I heard that story from Charlie Parker or Bird. He would practice 16 hours a day. His significant other would have to put the food at the door.
Right. Yeah.
Like he wasn't taking a break. So that really resonated with me. And I was like, in my early 20s and coming out of school and getting to college, I was like, I'm going to take this as hard as I can because I know there will be a time in life where I can't go that hard.
Hmm.
And some of the goals and aspirations I had were going to require that. I wanted to
Yeah.
be one of the best of all time. Like that was my goal. Like that's how I thought. I'm like, I could do this. I could be one of the best of all time. So that's a bit crazy. But nowadays, I'm grateful for all that time I did put in. But nowadays, I also realize a shorter amount of time and a very like uh, disciplined amount of time, if I really focus on topics or things I'm working on, I actually get better at the same rate.
Yeah.
So, for example, if I practice for 7 hours, in there is noodling. It'll
Yeah.
happen, you know? So, yes, I played for 7 hours. It's always good to have our hands on the instrument. But how much of those hours were things that were difficult and challenging that made me get better? Because there was a lot of noodling in there and a lot of playing the same old stuff. So I could play for 7 hours, but if I play the same old stuff for 7 hours, I haven't gained 7 hours. I just did the same thing for 7 hours.
Right.
So I focus now when I sit down to practice. There's a little bit of rehearsal, like I have a quite extensive repertoire, so I have to take a day to like
Sure.
go, okay, 4 hours here. I'm going to run everything, but I tend to just sit down and work on the things that mean the most, like
Hmm.
time. You know, improvising over changes is a requirement of me and a lot of the work I do. I'm also an educator, so I have to stay hip to the times. I had to learn the cage system like on the back end, like I
Yeah.
didn't learn that way, but I have to know it. So there's just different things like that. So I find that my practice is a smaller amount of time, but I do it more meaningfully than I ever had. So I
Yeah.
still get the results, and I don't worry about my progress. I just worry about the process. And I tell that to
Yeah.
my students all the time. Like I get up every day and I play, and even later I'll play. I make sure that I do it every day. When we go to Ireland, my wife and I, like I took a little piccolo guitar and I played. And some of that's kind of hard to practice the things you normally would, but I just practiced other things that I wanted to work on, like
Sure.
chord melody and things like that. So I'm grateful for those younger years where I put in a lot of reps. I think my technique helped in that way. Like there's a certain I don't have to, if I never practiced a sweep arpeggio or a legato lick ever again in my life, I'll be fine because I did
Right.
so much of it then. So that I'm grateful for. That might be I don't know, that might be hard to do if you had not put the time in when you were younger. But for people who are starting late, I always tell them just, if you can state your goal or see it, what is your goal? If your goal is to do what I'm doing, you might need to do several hours a day for a brief time, take out a
Sure.
loan and don't work. What
Right.
it might take that. But if you have a different goal, mine was pretty crazy, right? If your
Hmm.
goal is just like, I want to be better than I am, or I just want to be a working musician, you do not have to play at the level of Andy Wood or
Right.
any of those guys to be a working musician. You know what I mean? And do it well. So I guess it just depends. So I always tell my students and stuff like, can you really illustrate your goals? Really think about what it is you're trying to do, because a lot of it is achievable.
Yeah.
You might see I see Guthrie Govan and then I want to smash my guitar. It's like,
Exactly.
how can you ever reach that? But no, if that's not your goal, then you don't have to worry about that. You just worry about getting better.
Well, I think that's one of the problems, especially I've noticed throughout my life with guitar players, especially, is we have this problem of the comparison like conundrum. You know,
Yes.
we especially, and it's almost been exacerbated by the last 10, 15 years of social media. You know what I mean? Like you said, you get online and you just see, these kids that, like you were talking about at the beginning, that are just naturally gifted towards that musical mindset, and they just pick up to things right away. And for some of us, it doesn't come naturally. We really have to sit and hammer this stuff out for a couple hours at the minimum. You know what I mean? But it's one of the things I've told my students too. It's just like, we can sit here and saying something like, kind of like what you were saying, being the best, like that doesn't really mean anything. You know what I mean? Like you want to be at the top of the heap. Good luck, man, because once you're at the top, there's nowhere to go but down. You know what I mean? And we look at these people that have this almost mythical quality. Name your favorite musician. You know what I mean? You automatically get this negative connotation in your mind of like, I'm never going to achieve that. It's like, okay, yeah, if we're going to compare ourselves to those greats, sure, you're probably not going to get to that level of musicianship, but you're also not looking at what you're doing to try to, like I said, move that needle a little bit further for whatever that specific goal is. I think having those realistic expectations as a guitar player or a musician in general, if your goal is to be the best, that is, like you said, that is what you have to do. You have to practice. That is you. That is what you do. You don't do anything else. That instrument is your job.
Hmm.
Learning as much as you can on that instrument, playing as much as you can. If, like you said, you just want to go play wedding gigs, you want to go start a cover band, or I mean, even if you want to get into lower level session stuff, man, like you don't have to be this mythical musician, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It always kind of frustrates me, and I've fallen into this too. Like I'm not trying to say that I haven't, because I've definitely picked up the phone or seen
Oh
people
yeah.
online and just been like, man, what am I doing? Why am I even playing this instrument anymore? You know what I mean? So
Well, it's funny because, like we mentioned Andy earlier, that was a pretty impactful meeting that I had with him, Tom Quayle
hmm
as well.
Oh yeah.
My buddy now, brother now, Daniel Seraph. But when I met him, I just had heard of his legend and his lore. So like when I was younger, yeah, that was my mindset. I'm like, I'm just gonna go so hard that by the end of this, I'll be the best there's ever been. But what I found was, when I got to meet those kinds of guys, like the water went so much deeper. And it's
hmm
like, and then I realized, I'm not going to be Andy Wood. But at the same time, Andy Wood told me not to be him. He told me be myself. What he
Yeah.
heard out of me, he was like, dude, you just need to keep doing your thing, and you need to crystallize that better rather than pull yourself so thin with all this other stuff. Just focus on what you're doing here, dude. This is great stuff. And then my mindset changed. I was like, okay, that's never actually going to happen, because you also have so much respect for other players that you just realize you're like, I just love what he's doing, and I understand I'm not going to get to do that because it's over here
Yeah.
and I'm right here, but it's not that you can't. It's only a matter of time before you could. But to me, it's just like, wow, I've learned so much from players that would probably tell you like, oh, Matt's way better than me. But I have so much respect for the instrument and people and art that I always find something that they're playing that I'm like, hey man, hey, what are you doing there, man? Show me that. Like,
Yep.
and I feel like it just changed over to, what, if people respect you for where you're at, that's it, and then you can still continue to get better than yourself. The only person I'm
hmm
trying to be better than is however Matt played yesterday. I would like to be better than that guy.
Yep.
Uh, you know, but every time I take a gig or something, I want to be the best guitar player when I play that gig. I want to leave making you think that I was the best guitar player that's ever played with you. And that might not be true, but that's how I get myself jacked up to go do a good job.
hmm
And it usually ends well anyways. You get the call back to do the next gig. But like I said, at the end of the day, now I just want to be myself and be a better version of myself than anything else. And I love to watch the Andys and the Toms just do this seemingly untouchable stuff.
Yeah.
And just let it inspire me. Like
Yeah.
I was just in Nashville this past weekend for our Sonora trip and get to play with
hmm
all our mentors, and these guys are unreal, unreal. But the whole weekend was them being like, "Dude, you're nasty." You like,
Right.
everybody was so welcoming that I just, over time you get to a point where it's like, well, what am I trying to do with music now? I used to want to play fast. Now I'm just like, now how can I just play the things I'm playing better? How can I
Yeah.
serve the song better, things like that. I'm sorry if I'm going off on a tangent, but
No,
I
you're
think
good,
we
man.
all we all feel that, I think, and we should just let it go, because it makes the instrument unenjoyable.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I'm a huge fan of Andy. I had the opportunity to go to the woodshed, got to hang out with Andy and Tom and a bunch of other just the word incredible isn't enough to describe their musicianship. You know what I mean? And I'm not calling them just guitar players. Like they are complete musicians. You know,
Right.
when they sit with a band, they are a complete musician. Every person in that band, whether it's the rhythm section, whoever is associated with that live production, they are all complete musicians. And that is what I determined probably about 3 or 4 years ago is like I would rather be that than just some dude that can play really, really fast. I would rather be a complete musician, and that's the end state now. Every day I need to improve a little bit more to try to get to that goal. And the best, well, it's kind of a double-edged sword because I don't think in my mind, and I don't think in anybody's mind, they're ever going to get to where they want to get to. in a relative sense, I suppose. But that's the goal. Every day, like you said, push myself to just be a little bit better than I was yesterday. If I had a weekend gig, I need to sit back and really think about what I did well and what I need to kind of improve on from that gig. Or like you said too, every time I play, like those cover gigs or anything like that, like my sole focus is serving that song, and those like 15 seconds that I get maybe every 3 or 4 songs to rip something, cool, man. That's my 15 seconds to look like the cool guy, and then I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to continue to play with the rest of the band, you know. So, but yeah, that woodshed thing was an unbelievable experience, man. And I think one of the things that permeated me even before I went there was talking about Andy was talking about, having a statement. What is your musical statement? And like what you said too, what is your goal as a musician? Like once you define that, life gets so much easier as a guitar player or any musician. You know what I mean? Like you're not sitting there trying to think of like, oh well, if I can only alternate pick at 250 BPM, then I'm gonna be awesome. It's like, okay, yeah, that is awesome, man. Like I'm not trying to say that that's not cool, but if that's not like I just don't see that. Like that's such a general broad thing that doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day. You know what I mean? What context are we talking about when you're doing that? You know, if we're going to provide something where you're playing some crazy instrumental, you know, very technical piece, sure. But most guys aren't really trying to go after that instrumental aspect of it. You know what I mean? You're trying to play with other musicians, you're trying to play with singers, you're trying to play with songwriters and serve that song. That's really where the focus should be, in my opinion. You know?
Absolutely. Well, and it depends. If, being a professional is your goal, then you have to do whatever it takes to do that. Because I've found
Sure.
sometimes too, like there's these amazing drummer or something, and he or she just can do the most unbelievable things. But then when you're like, hey, we're playing My Girl for their first dance,
Hmm.
that's an issue. And there's all this polyrhythm or whatever going on in that. It's like, you know what, this is why you're not working. This is why you're not getting called. There's a
Right.
lot of great, amazing players that aren't getting the call because like you're not doing the other things right.
Hmm.
Or sometimes just showing up on time. I've seen that.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, this guy plays great, but it's a 50-50 shot if he's going to show up or not. So just depends too. So I got to a point where it was very real. It was like, I'm going to starve if I don't start focusing on the bigger picture here. It's not just
Hmm.
about me playing, the most incredible thing I can. It's about me, whatever I'm doing, that it's so good that it's going to keep that going, and
Right.
therefore money can be acquired and pay for a house and stuff. So,
Well, the rules that I've lived by for a very long time, and the being quote unquote good at your instrument is relative, but that's usually goes without being said. But being a cool person to hang out with, showing up on time, and knowing your parts. Dude, if you do those three things, man, like it, you're almost golden. You know what I mean? The the
well, and
the,
it's
the
funny.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're
Oh, I
good.
was going to say, it's funny because, yeah, there's so many times where you go to audition for something or you're trying to get this gig and you realize, oh, so and so is going for the gig and dude, he can just totally shred me into the ground. I got every one of those gigs every time
Yeah.
because of those other intangibles. Like, well, he can outshred Matt, but Matt also sings BGVs. Matt's got a great reputation of this or that. Like those things go so much further than your capability of how fast you play or,
Yeah.
getting outplayed.
Yeah. Well, I also like too that I'm originally from Indiana, so just over west from where you grew up too. So
Yeah.
I get it with like those Midwest towns and stuff like that. Like there's a scene in Indianapolis. Like there is a music scene. It's not enough though to really get you to where you want to go. And I've talked to people about that where I I I agree with the mindset that you kind of talked about when you were like moving down to Atlanta when you were younger, about how Nashville is really cutthroat. And I've heard other people say that like, oh, it's oversaturated. It's like, well, like, okay, yeah. It if you're going in with that mindset, but dude, if all you're doing is you're going to these writers' nights or you're going to these open jams, or if like you're not going there at that initial stage to get the gig or whatever that means. You know what I mean? You're going there to network and be that cool dude to hang out with and be that guy that will show up and be that guy that can, learn parts really quick. Once people start to see that happen, they're going to be like, "Oh yeah, hey, that dude can do it. We need to talk to him more. Hey, we need to get his number. We need, you know what I mean? It's not like oh, I'm going to go down and play Broadway and then somebody's going to pick me up for a national
Right.
touring gig. Like that's not going to happen. But
Right.
these small little things of like I just said, and those three things is knowing your parts, being a good person, and showing up on time goes so much further. And like you said, any more of that repertoire that you can add, whether it's background vocals, maybe running sound, maybe teching, whatever you can add to the overall production of whatever the band or the whatever you're playing in, that goes so much further than how fast you can play on guitar, dude.
I've seen a bass player recently get a gig, a great bass player, get
Hmm.
a gig over a phenomenal bass player who is dutiful, who does show up on time because of Ableton.
Yeah.
Because this bass player knew how to run Ableton. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, if that's going to be the difference of you getting a bigger shot, a lot of the bigger name artists are playing to tracks. So having somebody that can run Ableton is a huge thing. It's like, whoa, that's something I didn't even consider. So
Yeah.
the more tools in your toolbox, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and it's the same thing. Like I do, unfortunately, I haven't been able to gig a whole lot, so I've pushed a little bit more on social media. It's the same sort of aspect. It's a lot more impersonal, unfortunately, but the same goal can relatively be achieved. If you're showing up, that means, you're posting daily, you're showing, people that you're committed to that. But it also gives everybody, it's like, that's what I really like now, because it used to be back in the day, you'd show up to a gig and nobody would have any frame of reference besides the last time you played with them or
Hmm.
maybe what you're doing right then and there. But now it's like you have this huge portfolio of whether it's just a cell phone video or like some of the stuff you've done where it's this larger production thing, you know what I mean, that people can pull from. You know, it's a good and bad thing because I think still people get wrapped up in the I don't want to post this because I feel like I'm not good enough sort of mindset, or I don't know. I've always not worried about that. Well, don't want to say always. Here in the past like 3 years, I've not worried about that. I've just put out whatever it is, and sometimes it's single takes where they absolutely suck and I probably shouldn't have, but I just try to be as authentic as humanly possible. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, I've been posting more stuff. When I was younger, it was because it's your first impression on
yeah.
Facebook in this group, this guitar group. Like, I would maybe take a lot of takes to get something right, to make sure it was
Hmm.
as pristine as I could be. So there's
Sure.
definitely been that stuff out there. But then I've also had to, prove it. I've gone
Yeah.
out and played live, and then people go, "Hey, you did this video, like do it now," So
Hmm.
you kind of put it out there. So like even this past weekend, our guitar retreat, there's some mistakes in those videos, and I have no problem posting them. One, they happen about 6 minutes in. I don't know
Yeah.
that anyone's gonna watch 6 minutes in.
Sure.
But two, they're not so obvious that the song started or stopped. People don't know what note you meant to play, so don't, because I know that I missed it. It breaks my heart, but they're not going to know that, and it's not going to lose me a gig. There's so much other stuff that I killed that, yeah, in a jam where you're having fun, you just might miss a note here. Like I just try to embrace that we're human, and you know, I bet Guthrie missed a note. I just can't find it. I bet it, bet
Exactly.
it, bet he did.
Well, and to be fair, I got a little bit obsessive with Junktown when it came out
Oh,
from Andy,
yeah.
and learned a bunch of songs off that. And it's so funny now because I think because I was so obsessed with like learning techniques off that album that when I do hear him play now, like I can pick out like little inconsistencies that aren't wrong. It's just not the track that I've listened to
The
hundreds of
polished,
thousands.
yeah.
Yeah, but that's what gives a guitar player their character, that sass that they have. You know what I mean? That attitude that they or whatever feeling they're trying to because every time you play something, you're not playing it 100% accurate to the track or 100% accurate to how you played it the last time you did. There's going to be small little inconsistencies, and it could be something as small as just how you use your vibrato on certain bends. You know what I mean? Like, and to somebody that really listens to specific music or maybe follows you a lot or whoever a lot, they might be able to pick out those little tiny inconsistencies. But like you said, the biggest monster in the room is you in your own head when you're sitting there just like, oh, I can't believe I did that. You know what I mean? And it just kills you for that like 30 seconds or not even, probably like 10. But it's just all about that recovery too, man. How you kind of flow in and out of that and, make it work the best you can in the moment.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but do you feel like when you hear a great player, like I went to a clinic recently and watched this amazing guitar player make a mistake, like pretty blatantly obvious right at the beginning of a performance, but then later hit this lick that was like not of this world.
Hmm.
So to me, like seeing it, the vulnerability of it, like, okay, this is an imperfect, not person, but you know what I mean? Like we're
Yeah.
people, so we might have an imperfect performance, but it almost made that last bit, like when the Falcons are destroying the Patriots in the Super Bowl and Brady's throwing pick six, but when it came time to throw down, dude did, and they came back and won. So that it kind of struck me as that. I was like, wow, that mistake made this moment so vulnerable that when that person nailed that other lick, I went, oh my God, this is one of the greatest guitar players in the world. Like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh. So if anything, go ahead and post the mistake, and when you kill it, then you got to respect that too.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, man. Like I have really told my students that too. It's like, dude, it's completely fine. We're playing something. If we're playing a new song or a different technique or a different exercise that you've never done before, you're not gonna play it right. There's no like if you play this right the first time, like I'm not doing my job well enough at this point. You know what I mean? Like I have misread where you're at as this, student to teacher sort of relationship we have. And I've failed because I haven't pushed you in the right direction with this, or I haven't pushed you hard enough with this sort of technique. But when it comes to these great guitar players, that's what I love seeing. These small little inconsistencies, because that's like what shows that, okay, like you said, they are human. They are going to make mistakes. You're going to see them kind of shake their head and kind of laugh a little bit while they're on stage or whatever that may be, and you automatically know that, oh, this guy, girl, whoever I'm watching play right now totally does what I do in my room or on stage or wherever. That happens all the time. We do it all the time as musicians, man. Like that's one of the biggest pieces I've tried to like relay. And I think one of the problems that we've forgotten that is because of social media and we see these polished, perfect videos that you have no context of how many takes that individual did. You have no context of what they're using most of the time. You're just seeing them sit with a guitar. It, it's one of those things. And like you said, it's great when you get called out for that sort of thing, when you're like, hey, I saw you on Instagram or YouTube or whatever do this. Show me how you did that. And now you got to rip it out in real time. You know what I mean? That's where the professionalism and that honing that craft comes into actual play. Not posting something online. The real life. Hey, now you're in a room with your heroes. You got to prove it now. You got to bring it. You
Yeah.
really got to show it.
Well, it's funny. Like, I love that you say that. I was watching you and Seth earlier on in this week, just kind of
Hmm.
brushing up my Shakespeare on you and what I might be getting myself into. But Seth said something like that. He's like, you see these guys or whomever on Instagram and stuff like that, and they have these polished, ridiculous takes, and then you see them at NAMM or something, and it's not really fire
Right.
like it was there, and so you start to realize, okay, there's a lot of production, but it always strikes me because when you go watch YouTube, you see people doing covers. They
Hmm.
have, I mean, my band, for our music videos, we're definitely miming, but I'll plug into the amp and have it on a little bit for the video because I want to feel like I'm actually doing it. I want it to
Yeah.
look so convincing, but I also want to do it live. But it was always funny to me because I'll go see great live music here locally, and it's imperfect. That my friend, a little pitchy, but he's amazing. A little
Hmm.
pitchy, but he's amazing. But then you go watch YouTube and it's like, wow, here's these perfect takes by all these people. I wonder how
Right.
they did that. So I've never heard better music than YouTube videos of people miming. It's amazing. It's so polished. But I wish I like going see it live better. I liked hearing that you're a little pitchy, that your voice almost didn't make it today. and it's still a great performance. That's real. Ella, when you listen to Ella Fitzgerald, like her pitch is so amazing, and that was so real. It couldn't be polished. Like
Yeah,
that's just how she was. Like
yeah,
unless you're Ella, then give yourself a little grace. So
yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, man. Like we've all been. If anybody listening to this has gone and played out live or played in front of people, that is the fear, right? That you always go up and you got to like amp yourself up a little bit, like you were saying, where you're going to do the best you possibly can. But I've told students that too. I have a student right now that's about to start playing for a church, and he is absolutely nervous. And I'm like, dude, we're sitting here playing the same stuff, and like we're going through a rehearsal schedule for you of these songs that you got, and you're nailing them, man. Like not even like 100% of the song you got. So if you get up on stage and you flub 5% and you're still playing at 95%, you're good, man. That's
you
still a
you won,
passing
yeah.
grade. Yeah, that's still an A, man. Like if we're gonna go back to school, you're still passing with honors right now. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I think that for me especially too, that's how it's always been. It's always been in my own head. It's never been anybody else that's watching or saying anything to me. It's always in your own head. And I think you got to kind of like scope out a little bit and kind of like take yourself out of that situation and kind of reevaluate a little bit of like, dude, I'm getting to play, even if you're playing a dive bar, you're getting to play for 4 hours for money. You know what I mean? Like think about it from that aspect. Even if it's just covers or whatever it is you're doing, you don't have to be on some massive arena stage. You know what I mean? You're making people have fun. They're dancing. They're having a great night because you're there providing the entertainment. You know?
Yeah, we take that for granted sometimes too. I know maybe in passing I've even kind of, foo-fooed at the bar gig. There's nothing wrong with that. That is still better than Target and
Yeah.
McDonald's, like any day, any day. But yeah, it's funny. It's funny too because a lot of people think that, that they got to play perfect and that it's going to be as comfortable as it is at home.
Yeah.
I've played and felt pretty good about myself in my office and sitting here, got the tone dialed in and stuff. But what happens like in the real life, like when I go to play the national anthem at the baseball game and it rains right before and I
Yep.
don't get to sound check and now I'm going out there and I'm like, am I going to be electrocuted? Is the amp even going to come on? Like they introduce you, you're like, is sound even going to come out? Like those sorts of things. Or I played with this orchestra last year and it was so cold in the room that like it was hard to keep the guitar in tune and it was hard to play because I was so cold. Well, I got a passing grade, right? That they hired me back the next year. And then all the way leading up to it, I practiced out in my garage where it was freezing cold.
Yeah.
So that when I got there, you know what I mean? So like just practicing uncomfortably is a good thing to do because not all gigs and not all opportunities are going to be exactly the specs that you have in your room or your situation. So I try to do that. I think too, playing with other people who don't hear you all the time is a great thing.
Yeah.
Because if you hear you all the time, I hear me all the time. Nobody's more sick of Matt Sickels than me myself.
Right.
But as soon as I play with other people or I play in front of Andy, that's how the response came across. In my head, I'm like, oh, he thinks I suck. Oh, he thinks I suck. But that wasn't the case. This is him experiencing me for the first time. And so he had a different result than what was playing in my head. I think we
Mm-hmm.
need to remind ourselves of that these people haven't heard me before, so they're not sick of me. And if anything, they're just enjoying music that you're playing and being respectful, and listening and stuff. So
Yeah.
we can, yeah, that psychological game is a thing for sure.
Well, and I think I've thought about this a lot too. And if you look at like if we just took like a sample set of the United States, like I've said this many times before, so listeners, I'm sorry if I'm being a broken record right now, but it's a point that I like to make a lot because not a lot of people think about this. If we just took the United States, like how many people play an instrument in the United States out of everybody here? It's pretty insignificant number relative to the entire population. Out of those people that play an instrument, how many of them are actually doing it regularly in front of people? That's an even smaller number. Now, if we're going to subcategorize all of those into the specific instrument, how many people are out playing in bars or at gigs in front of people with a guitar? It's a pretty low amount of people, man. Most people don't do that. So for you to be put in a position where you've worked your butt off for years. And now, even like I said, even if it's some smoke-filled dive bar, like you are doing something that most people can't do. Even if you're flubbing all your notes, you're still doing something most people can't even get up and publicly speak. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And now you're putting yourself out on a stage where you're raised above everyone else and the spotlight's on you, and you're playing songs for these people. Like that's the mindset we need to try to have. We don't need to think about like, oh man, I suck. I can't do this because I'm not as good as so, or insert this person. I can't do this. But you're doing something that takes talent, a percentage of natural ability, and a percentage of you working your butt off to get to where you got to, man. And you should be enjoying those moments when you get to play for people, you know? But it is hard because I've been in that same mindset, dude, where I've sat in front of somebody that I know is a monster. And then I'm just like, oh, dude, I can't believe I'm even holding an instrument in front of this person. And then they come by and they're like, man, that was pretty sick. Show me what you could do. Like you just said, all guitar players do it to everybody. You know what I mean? Hey, that was pretty sick. Show me what you did there. You know what I mean? I don't have any business showing you that because you probably can pick it out in a second. But once again, it's a different lens, a different perspective that we just weren't seeing, you know?
Right. Right. One of my favorite things that Tom Quayle said, because I mean, when I met him at the Musicians Summit several years ago, um, that was a big deal because I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
dude, I've learned so much of my legato from him. I ended up
Yeah.
finding out playing it in front of him. He's like, you're actually not doing it right. My legato was really,
Yeah.
really cool, or I thought, and everyone else wanted to learn what I was doing. I'm like, I just do Quail. And then when you play it for Quail, he's like, that's actually not right, but I love what you're doing. But one of the things I asked him was because when you sit down to play, he's like Spain, let's do
Mm-hmm.
Spain. Like these aren't just ones to shrug off. I'm like, oh crap. But the other thing I think about is I'm like, yes, I'm nervous. I'm probably going to eat it in front of Quail, one of my heroes. But at the same time, I got to do him the respect if I got to give it hell. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because he doesn't want to play with somebody who's just fumbling around. Like, I'm going to give it hell. And then I'm just going to ask him for some criticism. So I was like, we went out to dinner later with some of the group and Seth. And I was just like, hey, Tom, can I ask you, man, like, if you could give me some critique, like, what would you say? And he goes, Matt, just act like you belong.
Yeah.
Just act like you belong. Because I was being such a, oh, shucks, man, I sucked. How did, how I was being too much like that. And he was like, just act like you belong. And ever since then, every time I've gotten an opportunity to play with somebody, even a hero or somebody I look up to a lot, I just give it hell and I let it be what it is. And if it was great, awesome. If not, fine. And if I want to solicit the critique from them, I can ask them,
Yeah.
and I'll get
Yeah.
better. So,
Yeah. Well, and to harp back to the beginning, man, that's just another way you're moving the needle. You know what I mean? You're just,
right.
okay, what do I need to do? And that's the thing. I think that's what when we sit and we think about guitar and like practicing, I've had students that say this. They think it's too regimented. It's like, okay, man, like there's a certain aspect of your practice routine that really does need to be regimented if you want to improve significantly over time. But we also don't need to be beating our head against the wall if you can't get a technique down. You know what I mean? Like we don't you don't need to sit here and just, force it on yourself like you're having to, I don't know what would be a good analogy. Like, you're coming home from school and immediately right when you get home from school, your parents say, "Hey, do your homework right now." It's like, well, dude, I just spent 8 hours at school. I want to kind of relax for a second. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like we shouldn't be treating that instrument like, now I have to sit down and I have to drill these broken third, major scale, patterns that I can do, or whatever it may be. You know what I mean? Like, e- e- I've never understood like the mindset of like, oh, I don't like it. It's like, okay, well, if you're not liking what you're doing, let's figure out something you do like that we can do that still achieves the same goal here. Because the goal is just to get better in this lesson scenario. We don't need to sit here and learn things that you don't want to learn. You know what I mean? There's certain aspects, like I said, that we do have to be a little regimented, but it, I never want to treat it like that with a student of mine. You know?
Right. I try to give them, because there's some things like, especially with regarding the metronome,
Yes.
that nobody wants to sit there and be pummeled in the face by that. And then they're like, Matt, I'm just not having fun. I'm like, I understand, but this part's not really about the fun that's
Yeah.
happening currently. What is fun is when you play with another great guitar player who has great time and they don't ask you to stop playing because your time is so bad. That's fun to me.
Yeah.
Like my time is so good I can participate. So sometimes you have to like pull back the curtain and let them know, like, yes, this is miserable. You only need to do it a little bit each day. Be
Yeah.
very regimented about it, but get it over with. Take the medicine, and then later when you're playing with other people and you're like, oh my God, look, I jammed with so and so and it was great. It came out awesome. It's because your time is great and the
Hmm.
things you worked on are great. So, but I try to give them a something fun to do too. Everybody who owns a guitar, if they know how to play something on it, every time they pass it in the living room or wherever it is, they'll want to pick it up and play at least that one thing. You know, they
Yeah,
might not pick it up and run eighth notes to the metronome, but they might pick it up and play a little bit of Smells Like Teen Spirit or
for
Smoke on the
sure.
Water, whatever. So I always try to give them that one nugget. It's like, all right, if you take your medicine, do your metronome exercise, then you can go over here and play on the playground.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
just kind of like, if you can do that, if you can level that out for yourself every day, then it stays really fun. You're not drained like you were expressing. Like you might just exhaust yourself. You're so drained you don't even want to do the fun stuff anymore. So it's tough. But the one thing I'll say for students that might be listening and stuff like that, or aspiring guitar players, is that that's what makes me want to practice the hard stuff is when I see it come to fruition. When I see it in the wild, I'm like, oh, that worked. Now
Yep.
I like love it. I like become obsessed with the hard things that make me miserable. It's like, no, this is going to be awesome one day. I don't know where it's going to come out, but I'm going to be in some scenario where this will have been very beneficial. Sometimes there's just things you're like, man, I'm working on this and I don't see where it would be beneficial based on my goals and where I want to go. So I don't know, take it off the list then, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, prime example, man. There was a time where I was drilling a lot of stuff on the metronome, whether it was just quarter, eighth, triplets, 16th notes or whatever, and just really focusing on my accent notes to make sure I was really, accentuating whatever, I was playing, whether those specific note groups. And it was probably about 2 or 3 years ago, and I was playing some random gig, and I kind of got the head nod to take a little solo real quick for a part, and this phrase that I had never played before just came out, and that it was because of that drilling, that metronome stuff, where I had this odd, weird phrase that just came out of nowhere. And like you just said, dude, that was the light bulb moment of like, oh, this stuff actually works. You know what I mean? Now I have this like and it was I got that like stank face from the bass player and drummer,
Oh yeah.
so that's like the best feeling in the world when
That's
you're
the
up
highest
playing.
regard you can get.
Yeah,
Yeah, the stank
dude.
face.
And I'm sitting here like, holy crap. And so now, like you just said too, that's one of the things that I don't mind doing anymore. I don't mind sitting up here for an hour with the metronome and really figuring stuff out. You know what I mean? And really slowing it down to where if I'm getting a little too sloppy, it's like, okay, cool. They just need to take it down a notch, and now we need to pick out where you're messing up here, and really refining those fine motor skills with your left and right hand and how you're going to articulate those notes. So but it's hard to relay that to like a 13, 14-year-old kid. You know what I mean? That just wants to play fast. He's Ricky Bobby, want to go fast. You know what I mean?
Well, you got these
So
Ferraris. We should drive
yeah,
them fast, you know?
yeah,
Uh, yeah, no, I get it. And it's so interesting to me because a lot of people, you see it all over the internet. You unlock the cage system and
right.
pay just this amount of money and people will pay whatever it takes. They'll buy the nicest gear. They'll pay for all kinds of lessons and then not finish them and then go buy these other pack of lessons and not finish them. They'll do everything they can to not do the work.
Yep.
That's what I've noticed. And so it's like
Hmm.
if you can just understand that the skinny guy that looks the way you want to look is on the Stairmaster right now, set at level 20, and he's just going to town for 45 minutes, and you sit there going, I want to look like that guy, but you won't get up on the Stairmaster and do it. So to me, I always realize that the results I'm looking for are in the work I'll avoid.
Yeah.
So don't avoid it. Just go do it. It doesn't have to be all day, but consistently, and it'll pay dividends. So
Yeah. Sorry, you cut out just a little bit there. We got some technical issues going on, but I think we're good again.
that's all right. Yeah, you froze. I was saying something about Back to the Future, I think. So no, I'm just kidding.
No, it's all good. Well, see, the good thing is the audio will still come through, so we'll still
Oh,
have it. I just
nice.
don't know what you said right now, so get a little
Perfect.
get a little
I'll let you be
surprise on the.
surprised.
Yeah. Well, no, but I did catch that part about that's been a phrase that dude, I've wrote it on my whiteboard that I have up here, and I always look at it is the magic you seek is in the work you avoid. The second I'm feeling like, oh, I don't want to do this. Oh, this, I feel like I want to do something else right now. I have that right over where I would look, and I'm like, nope, nope, this is where it's at, man. Because to harp back to the beginning, man, if that's what you want to do, that's what it takes. If you want to be that next level, whatever you want to call it, if you want to level up your playing ability, dude, you've got to sit and you've got to suffer a little bit in some way, shape, or form, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever it is, to overcome that obstacle to get to that next level. Like there's no pedal, there's no amp, there's no guitar, there's no course that you're going to buy that's going to replace the work you're going to put in by yourself, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny to me because we all say like about things we love, maybe it be people or whatever, like, oh, I would give anything, or I'd take a bullet for that person. I love them. I'd take a bullet for them. And then for guitar, it's like, I love guitar, but I ain't practicing.
Yeah, right.
It's like,
Yeah.
wow, we just
Yeah.
went from one extreme to the next. So I love guitar. I saw Marty kick the amps over, and this is a fictitious character. And I was like, I'm going to do all that. I haven't kicked any amps yet, but I'll play behind my head, no problem. Love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, it's different when you own the amps and you gotta, pay the cost of kicking those amps over.
This is true.
So,
This is true.
and unless you have unlimited income, which I don't know of anybody that does. So, and not to mention too, like, I mean, the whole stage persona, like you can be a cool guy or girl or whatever, and have that attitude and sass on stage without destroying your stuff. Now that's part of your shtick, totally cool, but I'm gonna keep my amps and my guitars around for a little bit. So,
Right.
but
Right.
well, we're coming up close to time, okay? So before we wrap this up, let's do this. What do you got planned for the next, maybe let's say year, and then let's get all your plugs where everybody can find you at too.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram at Matt_Sickels, and it's Sickels, not LES, so ELS. You can find me there. You can find all my music. If you type in my name, you'll find solo records of famous songs and arrangements and stuff. I got a band called Karate Club. You can also find us Karate Club Official on Instagram or iTunes, any streaming platforms. You can go listen to our music. My next step, and hopefully in the next year, I've definitely made steps to make that happen. But it's to put out my own solo record, a la very much like Andy Wood has.
Nice.
Instrumental kind of fusion based stuff, which I haven't gotten to do yet. I play a lot of gigs that way, but haven't put out that music. So that's my next hope. And in the meantime, I teach full time at Sonora Guitar Intensive. So I'll be doing a lot of that over the next year as well. So
Nice. Well, it sounds like lofty goals, but also business as usual for the rest of the year. You know what I mean?
that's it. I'll just get to it daily, right? A little bit
Right.
each time, and then hopefully this time next year there'll be something. So
Absolutely. Well, for all of you guys, if you guys want to check out anything that Matt is up to, everything he just mentioned will be down in the show notes below, easily clickable. You guys can check out all the stuff that Matt is up to. But Matt, dude, I appreciate you taking the time, man.
hey, thanks for asking me. I'm glad I was able to get back to you and we could schedule it and stuff. And it's a
Oh,
pleasure
yeah.
to meet you. I hope I get to see you in person someday.
Absolutely, dude. I honestly can't wait, man. But for Matt and for all of you guys, we will check you guys next week on Man the Helm podcast.